Hello guys and welcome back to All the Time Spent Gaming's YouTube channel, this time for a review of Gears 5. The game isn't out until the 13th of September, but everyone who has Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which is now available for only $2 a month, can freely download the game and start playing it already. I haven't finished the game, and I won't finish the game. And that's part of the reasoning behind the score that I'm giving it in my review. So let's get this review going. I've played every single entry in the Gears of War franchise, starting with the first one back in 2006. And around Judgment, or Gears of War 3 even, I started to feel a bit tired of the series. Gears of War 1 was somewhat of a revolution for the third-person action genre, introducing a cover system which brought the tactical depth to the gameplay. It was the first truly next-gen experience to the 7th generation of consoles. Fast forward 13 years in 2019 and Gears of War is still much the same. Well, the developer has changed at least. The first games in the series were developed by Epic Games, but Microsoft Studios acquired the rights to Gears of War in 2014 and founded a new studio called The Coalition to further development in the series. Gears 5 is the third game to be developed by The Coalition. They started off with the Gears of War 1 remaster in 2015 and followed it up with Gears 4 in 2016. Gears 4 wasn't all that well received, and the Coalition promises to bring huge changes to the franchise with Gears 5. So let's see if the game can live up to its promises. Gears 5 starts off right where Gears 4 left us. But don't worry, even if you haven't played the fourth game, you can still enjoy this one. Gears 5 is a much more personal story than the fourth one, and it revolves around Kate and her finding her origins. The discovery of Kate's path brings us details also about the Locust and their origins. The story is well acted, and is much more upfront and personal than the latest games in the series. The main problem with the story is that it's all too wrapped up in its own lore, and all too predictable. I mean, haven't you heard this before? A story about a young girl who doesn't know anything about her past, but who finds out that she is somehow related to the enemy. In a thrilling experience, she has to choose between family, friends, between sacrificing herself for a good cause, or choosing her own family. I sure as hell have heard it all before, but it's not as much of a problem as you might think, because the story is well acted, and it's also well written. While I might have wanted something a bit more fresh, like an origin story, the writing and acting is still good enough to make you want to see it through until the end. Okay, I get it. Gears of War has always been an over-the-top cover-based third-person shooter. Gears 5 carries on that tradition. The game is just as Gears 2, 3, Judgment and Gears 4 best described as bigger, better and more badass sequel to the first one. The problem is that isn't quite enough 13 years after the series debuted with Gears of War 1. Okay, some small attempts have been made to bring the franchise forward. Gears 5 includes a more open world design than its predecessors, for example. It's not an open world game, but the game opens up after the first act and lets you traverse an icy world and later a sandy world while engaging in side activities or heading on through the main story. The open design has been praised by other reviewers that I usually admire, such as Skillpoint, who say that the open world design adds variety to the game and balances the pacing without bringing busy work to the series. I agree with the two first points, but I disagree with the third one. The open design adds busy work to Gears, but without any real rewards for doing the busy work. Other games such as Metro Exodus were rewards the player with weapon parts for completing the side activities. Games such as Days Gone let side activities affect the main story, and games such as Tomb Raider lets the player gain XP through side activities. Gears 5 doesn't do any of this, and the side activities feels therefore just as filler content, added to artificially extend the game's length. The Coalition has made some other changes to the formula as well. The first addition is the robot Jack. Jack has abilities designed to help you in a variety of ways during combat, and well, puzzles. Okay, puzzles isn't really the right word, it's a bit of a stretch. And I often forgot to use Jack along the adventure, though, and he doesn't really add much to the overall experience. Besides Jack, the Coalition has added some light stealth mechanics to bring variety to the game, but the stealth mechanics doesn't really work well at all, since you cannot even crouch. To summarize Gears 5, I have to acknowledge that it's a better paced game than Gears 4, but it's still just more Gears of War, and I think that we should expect more of a AAA series that has its 5th main entry. So let's hope the Coalition dares to shake up the formula a bit more in the 6th one. Gears 5 is, as you might have noticed, a truly beautiful game, and it runs amazingly well. It's possible to run the game in an almost flawless 60 FPS on my Razer Blade 15 with an RTX 2070 Max-Q with all the details set to Ultra in 4K. All the cinematics is in the engine this time, and the lighting model has seen some great improvements since the last game. The material work is also stunning, and the textures is even higher resolution than in the 4th entry in the series. What everyone else seems to ignore though, is that the world is very static. Almost all in-game details are plain textures that doesn't react to player movement or even gunfire, except for conveniently placed covers. The lack of simulation makes Gears 5 feel like a much older game than many of its competitors, and I really wish that the Coalition raises the game in this regard in the 6th one. The sound is quite awesome though. Unfortunately, I managed to record a podcast which I listened to while I gathered material for this video over the gameplay audio, hence why I cannot play any in-game audio as proof of the sound's awesomeness. You therefore have to trust my word that the sound and voice acting in this game is amazing. Okay, multiplayer. I have never played Gears of War for its multiplayer, but I know that many people do. Besides the free player co-op in the campaign, the game features a fully fledged multiplayer mode, with all the classics such as Team Deathmatch and Horde mode. New in this game is a mode called Escape, which I haven't played at all. The multiplayer is fine though, it's more Gears of War multiplayer, and there is a Terminator skins as well. What could even be better than that? Okay, jokes aside, if you like the early game's multiplayer, then I don't see any reason why you wouldn't like the multiplayer in Gears 5. Whoa! It's quite hard to summarize my feelings for Gears 5. It's a good game with high production values, a quite generic story, and solid gameplay. And I did have a lot of fun until halfway through the game. It's just that this game feels so done. Gears 5 is, as I said earlier, an even bigger, better and more badass version of Gears of War 1, and that's not enough innovation after 13 years. I wish that the Coalition gets the chance that Sony Santa Monica did with God of War, to reinvent Gears of War as a series, to ask and answer the question what Gears of War should be in 2020. Because I'm certain of one thing, the Coalition cannot make another bigger, better and more badass Gears of War, because they have already done it 2 times. Even after all my criticism, I cannot ignore the fact that Gears 5 is a good game, and the score is therefore a solid 7 out of 10. That's everything for today, guys. If you like this video, I hope you like it here on YouTube. If you dislike it and leave an angry comment. If you want to follow me, you can do so here on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook or on my webpage www.allthetimespentgaming.com. Until next time, have a great week of gaming.